Hello, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It is currently 3 a.m. and I cannot sleep. So, what better thing to do than record a chapter? Hee hee. If I do sound tired or if you hear random noises, that's probably what it is. Random 3 a.m. noises. I'm sure you've all heard them in your own house before. But yeah, I don't really have anything else. So yeah, let's get into it. Mastermind Rise of Anarchy. Written by Clouds. My head in the clouds, not coming down. Read by MHA. Chapter 27. Bonds. Summary. Having good, healthy friendships is important, don't you think? Shota looked completely sodded when he came to pick them up, but Sue could only imagine what was going through his head. They'd all know Bakugo wasn't the best guy, and that not having the best time since the whole Mastermind fiasco, but none of them had thought he'd take it that far. Apparently, they'd been just as blind with Bakugo as they had been with Todoroki. Though it was honestly a miracle it hadn't happened sooner, considering King's track record of violence. Sue stayed quiet while Ochako gave chase and tried to save the victim, but even after the ambulance arrived, they turned off their lights almost immediately when they realized there was no point. There would always be some people that were just too late to rescue. Tsukashi nodded to Aizawa when he came in. Aizawa, I wish we saw each other outside of crises. We'd probably see each other a lot less, Aizawa responded. Thank you for doing this. By the way, I didn't want to leave the case to just anyone. Takashi sighed. I wish there was more I could do, but once the media got a hold of the story, Aizawa shook his head. Situation like this is never going to be good. Send me the reports from the interrogations, would you? Of course. Takashi gestured to Ochako and Sue. Girls are free to go. We're holding King a bit longer, obviously. But when he's ready to post bail, we can release him to his parents or teacher. After tonight, I am no longer his teacher, Aizawa said, already making his way towards the door. There was no way I would let a kid who can't curb his own violence stay and hone those destructive tendencies anymore. Plus, a quick expulsion might be a piece to the masses and make this whole thing a bit less of a shit show. I already sent the papers to Nezu. Tsukashi looked at Aizawa sadly. I'm sorry, I know how much you hate expelling students. It had to be done. Aizawa's voice was emotionless. I can't let students become heroes who are just going to break the system even more. I wish I'd been there to help Bakugo a bit more, but he's the one who made the decision that led him there. He made his bed and now he has to lie in it. The drive back to UA was quiet, the sun starting to come up as they drove through deserted streets, which was beautiful in a haunting sort of way. Maybe it had to do with having a cork fog, but Sue had always been drawn to the natural beauty of things like sunrises and sunsets. It helped her remember that there was still good in the world, even now. Not that the world they'd trusted didn't have its own sorts of beauties, it was just more of a desolate kind of beauty, like valleys of rocks rather than a lush rainforest. Ochako had that same harsh beauty. Now, Sue noticed it developing over the past few months and hated how much she respected it. On one hand, it was amazing that Ochako was doing everything she was, but on the other, she was rapidly chipping away at everything that was holding her together, and it was only a matter of time until she shattered. Sue wasn't going to be able to stop it, and she'd come to terms with that after the failure of the intervention that 1A had tried holding, but she refused to be helpless. Sue glanced over at Ochako, who was forcing herself to stay awake, even though her eye bags were darker than Sue had ever seen them. If Ochako insisted on running until she broke, then someone needed to be there to plan to pick up those pieces when it happened. Mitsuki hesitated as she raised her hand to knock on the door. She didn't know why she thought coming to Inko's was a good idea. Actually, it was probably a terrible idea. Because, of course, when the whole fiasco was just proof that she could have been able to see Katsuki's issues sooner and stop them from even hurting Izuku in the first place. But Inko was the only other person she knew whose son was a villain. Which, of course, was a really shitty reason for visiting someone. She should just go home and maybe call Inko in the morning or something. Mitsuki nodded decisively and turned to leave when the door opened. Inko stepped out into the cool morning air, clutching a robe around her chest. Mitsuki, saw the news. Would you like to come in for tea? Mitsuki felt like those stupid Midoriya tears were contagious. As she froze, that would be great. Inko, I owe you one. Tokoyami hadn't said a word since he arrived. Ever since Hawks had rushed off and flown back in a few minutes later with Tokoyami in his arms. His former classmate had been sitting on a stool in the corner, watching them apprehensively as the rest of the league played video games. Dark shadow wrapped around him protectively. It had quite literally snapped at Mustard when the kid tried to say hi. So far, everyone else had kinda left him alone and let him do his own thing. Shoto wasn't really quite sure how to approach him because they did technically know each other, but on the other hand, there never felt any connection between the students in 1A, and the last time they met, it had been as enemies. Tabi kept shooting him looks, but Shoto just didn't know what to say. Was he supposed to give congratulations or console the situation? He almost jumped when Compress appeared behind him, with 2 glasses of grape juice in his hand. Ah, young Shoto, I was wondering if you could do me a favor. Shoto eyed him suspiciously. And what would that be? Compress grinned and shoved both glasses into his hand. Could you take some refreshments over to young Tokoyami? I'm sure he hasn't had drinking enough water. The other glass is for you, of course. Thanks bunches. And with that, Compress abandoned him to the task he'd been avoiding, rushing off into the kitchen before Shoto could properly glare at him. The asshole. He resisted the temptation to freeze the glasses into cubes, but did make sure they were probably as chilled before slightly approaching Tokoyami, who tensed as soon as he saw him coming. Dark shadow got a bit larger for every step closer Shoto took. He stopped a few feet in front of them, shrugging awkwardly as he gestured to the juice. Compress wanted me to give you one of these, Shoto explained. It's not drugged or anything, so yeah. To his surprise, Tokoyami actually snorted. At this point, I'm not sure if it would matter if it was. The world is so dark. Perhaps it is time to embrace it rather than trying to force it on into the light where it seems to shy away. Yeah, Shoto nodded. So, juice? Tokoyami gave a slow nod, and even though Dark Shadow kept a wary eye on him as he sat down, he didn't make any move to attack, so Shoto was counting that as a win. He silently held one of the glasses to Tokoyami, who took it gratefully and started drinking a few sips. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing, right? Maybe they could actually find a way to make this work. A few more minutes of watching Shigaraki destroy Davi in a racing game. Tokoyami broke the silence. If they'd given me another option, I wouldn't have stayed. I didn't want to be there. I kind of figured that, Shoto said. You never really struck me as the villain type, I guess. Tokoyami huffed. And you're the only one that hasn't been affected by the madness everyone else has seen on this horizon for months. Shoto frowned. What do you mean? They all thought Fumi was going to betray them, Dark Shadow growled. Those little vultures turned on him. I hate them. I want to tear them apart and... Calm yourself, Dark Shadow, Tokoyami ordered. What is done is done. Destiny has been written and our paths have been chosen for us. Now, the only thing left is to play our roles, and well assured those who drove us to embrace the darkness regret the roles they played in it. So you're here to stay? Shoto asked. Because you don't have to. Tokoyami's gaze was filled with a surprising amount of rage when he met Shoto's eyes. It is my destiny to be wrapped in the shadows. If our old friends insist on seeing me as nothing more than a villain, then perhaps it is time for us to stop fighting and reach towards the goal they have forced upon me. If you will have me, that is. Shoto smiled and raised his glass. Society's rejects. All family is welcome here. Welcome to the League of Villains. Tokoyami nodded solemnly and raised his glass in return. I'm here. And that was a chapter. I had to do this twice because I was laying down on my pillow while reading this. And I guess my headphone mic did not like that. Oh, sorry. I was constantly picking up sounds of just, slightly moving my head into the pillow fabric or whatever. But yeah, that was a chapter. Tokoyami, enabling a villain. Poor baby, I feel really sorry for him. And poor Chuck. Hey, I feel the same. Forcing myself to be awake. Actually, I can't sleep. Promise. That's all it is. And plus tomorrow is Friday. I just gotta do a few things, and then I can do this all weekend. And then, whatever. Anyway, I don't have anything else to say, so I will see you guys in the next chapter.